So I want to go ahead and drop a video because it's a lot of truckers out here. It's a lot of owner operators out here. It's a lot of company carriers/companies out here that is forced to take loads for under $2.40 a mile. Let's talk about it. So, a lot of people who in trucking knows that there is dry areas, dry zones, dead zones, places to whereas there is probably 1 or 2 loads in certain cities, certain areas, right? So that being said, with these couple of loads coming about these certain cities and these certain areas, let's throw Colorado out there, being that I'm in Colorado right now. I'm in Mount Rose. There's no loads in Mount Rose. Let's just throw that out there right now. There's no loads in Mount Rose, right? Shit rhymes, doesn't it? So Mount Rose, Colorado. Now, the only places in Colorado you can actually find loads at is Gibson, which is right off the 70, before you actually go to Vail, right? Then there is, we're talking about flatbed, mind you, right? Then there is Pueblo, Colorado, which is way off the 25 south, and there's Denver. Now, Denver itself, it's a hit and miss. Pueblo, they only really got one steel spot out there that you can go get loads from. And then there is Gibson, that's the only place you can get a load up out of, right? Now, that being said, if you're dealing with a broker and a broker is throwing loads on the board for $1.50, let's start what I'll really be saying. From 98 cents, $1.25, $1.50, $1.90, and $2.01, right? Those right there are loads that not only the broker can sit on and rotate on and hug it, kiss it, and do all those other things that you sit around there and do with your spouse. That's what the broker can do with that load, right? For the shippers that's posting a load at those points, you know what you can do with that load? You can sit on it, you can hold it, you can caress it, you can kiss it, you can rotate on it, and do all the lovely things that you like to do with your spouse, right? Because I'm gonna tell you something. If you are going to make top dollar off of your product when you sold it to go somewhere else, then you should be able to pay a decent amount of money to get that load from point A to point B. That's what you should be able to do. You should be able to go ahead and get that load from point A, your location, to point B, where you sold it to. Right? Because who you sold it to, they don't have to pay that price. They already paid full price, and that's the price that you charge them for that product. Now, in order for you to get that load to that product, you got to have the middleman, which carrier. So now the carrier steps in, and you don't want to go directly to the carrier, so you go to a third middleman, which is the broker. The broker, who's only basically going ahead and pushing paperwork, he's going to go ahead and take as much money that he can possibly can for that load. And 9 times out of 10, it's between 30, 50, 80%, which is way too much to be pushing some paperwork. I'll tell you that right now. Right? Now, as the carrier, you want to go ahead and say, why should I go ahead and put my truck in that area when I know there is nothing in that area? Nothing. Especially if I'm trying to deal directly with the shipper. There's hardly nothing there. There's nothing in Colorado. There's nothing in Montana. There's nothing in North Dakota. There's nothing in South Dakota. There's nothing in Wyoming. There's hardly anything in Idaho. And there's bare minimum also in Utah. But there's certain spots in Utah that you might go ahead and get lucky at, right? For example, let's call it what it is, Salt Lake City. They got a couple of steel yards out there. Some that I'm not even going to talk about. And then, so now let's continue to go. There's no lows in New Mexico. There's hardly any lows in Arizona. And god dang it, if you get a load going to California, you may get a load going to California, but the gas prices is going to go ahead and take out away from your profit. All right? Straight up. Just straight up. That's just how it is. Right? Now, of course, you got Oregon and you got Washington. But hey, let's be mindful. Oregon, you're gonna go ahead and get some loads, and they're gonna be lumber loads because they don't have the Oregon is not the place for steel. I can tell you that off the top. Why? Because I live there. Right now, Washington, on the other hand, you can hit and miss from Washington. They got steel places, a couple of steel places, and here's the flip side. You can go to the ports in Washington and get stuff straight from the ports, straight off them boats, right? Now, in Washington is another place that got lumber, right? So, but the flip side to it, they're gonna pay you about like $230 to get them loads up out of there, which is pretty reasonable, right? If they charge you $230, $240 to get them loads up out of there, because you know what they realize? They like, hey, you know what? We need these loads to be shipped to Texas. We need these loads to be shipped to Kentucky. We need these loads to be shipped over to even to Colorado. Right? So they're going to pay you top dollar to even get there. They're going to pay you a decent dollar to get there. Now, here's the flip side to that coin. When other loads come in to Colorado, right, they're going to pay you somewhat of a decent price also. Here's the problem. Everybody knows that taking a load to any of those places that I just named, other than freaking Oregon and freaking Washington and California, they know if you get a load going to those places, 9 times out of 10, it's going to eat up your profit. Trying to get up out of there because you got a deadhead almost 400 miles in practically every direction. Now, here's another thing about Colorado, why Colorado is so fucking great and Colorado is so lovely. Colorado have all those freaking mountains, some big old mountains, some steep mountains, some mountains with a whole bunch of curves and twists and turns and a whole bunch of other stuff, to whereas why Colorado is just so great, right? So now you have that. Now you have the other side of that spectrum, which is as the loads that's in these places are typically loads that's in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of nowhere, right? So let's say, hypothetically speaking, you do get a load, just like me, for an example, right? I've been here since Friday. Today is the 21st. I've been here since Friday. could have went ahead and picked up this load Friday, but trip this. I was way up in the mountains delivering some freaking bricks to a freaking customer who ordered some bricks directly to their house way up in the mountains. The kind of equipment they had to take off the bricks, I mean, it did the job, but it's not commercial like equipment. It's basically equipment that you do around the yard, you know, to do little small things and, you know, bob stuff around. That's what it was. It was a bobcat, right? Now, that being said, I couldn't go ahead and pick up this load Friday because they had to change the flat tire that the bobcat ended up having when it picked up the first freaking thing of bricks. Whoa. Right? Now, that's neither here nor there. Right? What we're talking about cheap loads that comes to dead zones. Cheap loads that's in areas to whereas, hey, you're not gonna have a real good time finding a load up out of there. So my question is, why go ahead and think it's good to accept that money for that little bit, for that small increment of a price, to deadhead 250 miles in any four directions? That you basically took that load for free. So my question is to all the big companies, why would you want to go ahead and take those loads to keep the truck moving? Why just avoid those loads? Here's another question that I have, right? What about the small companies and the other companies that actually in that state? How about just letting them have it? Yeah, how about just letting them have it? How about just letting them flip that profit? Because when you think about it, hell shit, they probably need it even more, you know? But trip this, if that was the case, why even the companies that's in them same towns, in them same cities, or them same states, why they not taking those loads? You're being the fall guy. Why are they not taking those loads? You know why? Because they know it ain't worth it. A lot of those people, they ain't even jumping up in their truck to get any of that. They ain't even thinking about moving their truck. They like, what? For what? They like, you know what? Such and such, wood place, forestry, whatever wood place that's in Mount Rose, that shit can stay there. Cause I ain't finna move my truck for no $1.80. I ain't finna move my truck for $1.90. I ain't even finna move my truck for $2.01. Why? Shit. I got insurance. My insurance costs $2,500. Shoot, I got fuel. My fuel's gonna cost me about a good $900. And to take it where? 1,000 miles? Man, you can keep that. You can keep all your wood right there. Oh, because the tariffs went up? Well, you know what? Because the tariffs went up, so has my prices to move your freight. Yeah. Since tariffs went up, so is the price to move your freight. Since the tariffs have went up, just for me to start up my truck, it's gonna cost you $3.45. Matter of fact, just because fuel went up, I'm gonna charge you $2.55 alone just on fuel. So just for me to start up my truck, I'm gonna charge you $5.75 a mile. That's my bare minimum. You want your freight to be moved, it's gonna cost you $5.75 for me to start up my truck. Why? Because everything else that's went up. My labor costs $22.45, and that's my low. That's my minimum wage. $22.45. You see what I'm saying? So here you have all the rest of these cocksuckers around here that's robbing everybody, including you, Mr. Freaking Carrier. You know, then you getting double whipped, double fucked, and he's going to go ahead and call your wife up and do a whole bunch of nasty things to your wife because you not man enough to tell him to go shove it up his motherfucking ass. So, oh yeah, after he go ahead and fuck you over, he's going to go ahead and go directly to your wife, go ahead and give her the hi-ho, 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 dee-ho-ho-ho, boop, you, bow, right in the pee-hole. He going to get her. You know what I mean? And then you wonder why she don't want to go ahead and wash your clothes and cook you a nice hot meal. Because you a pussy. You ain't bringing home the money like you used to. You settling for less. Hell shit, she know if she go out there, she have an even harder time. You know, so what does she do? She just stay up in the medical field. What does she do? She just stay in the reception area. What does she do? She really don't want to go to work because she thought that her husband was strong enough to go ahead and tell the broker to go fuck himself. She thought her husband was strong enough to go ahead and tell the freaking carrier, to tell the freaking shipper, you got to do better than that, buddy. How much are you making for that wood? How much you getting for a bundle of that wood? How much you selling it for? Oh yeah, you gotta do better than that, buddy. Well, I'm not gonna be able to see a profit. Shit, you ain't finna make no profit if I don't take it. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell all 25 of my fellow buddies that I just know to don't take that cheap ass shit. And then they gonna tell all 25 of their buddies from other carriers not to take that cheap shit. And guess what else we gonna do? We gonna go ahead and rub our elbows together and go ahead and figure out a way to cut out the middleman who's already fucking us over an extra $2,500 per load. And why? Because the tariffs went up. So, just being realistic here, you know, some of y'all probably said, well, hey, Jake Niski, how else are we gonna keep things coming in for us, man? How are we gonna keep a paycheck? How are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do this? Well, I tell you, stop falling for the banana in the tailpipe. Stop settling for less. Stop having somebody else coerce you into doing something that you know that you wouldn't do it yourself. If they not gonna do it, why should you do it? You see what I'm saying? If they won't go out there and put their hands through the mud, grit, and grind, pick up slime, dirt, and shit, and sweat for about like a whole 10 hours from doing all of an hour and a half work, if they ain't finna do it, why should you? They got it easy. They got it real easy. But you gotta put in all the labor. You gotta put in all the work. You gotta put in all the bullshit. You gotta deal with all the bullshit. You gotta deal with all the ridicule at the end of the day, and you know what? You gotta still hold your head up high, knock the dust off, keep your pride as you walk, so you don't feel like you just was fucked, So you gotta do all these things, and then you gotta still go home and look your woman in her eye, look your kids in their little innocent eyes when your kids ask for that new bike, that new princess ballerina, that new He-Man with the Kung Fu grip. You gotta look at your kids and say, Daddy can't get it for you because I didn't stick up to the broker. Daddy can't get it for you because I how to stick up to the shipper. See what I'm saying? And your wife is gonna say, well, I can't give you none of this punani because you ain't the same person who I hooked up with in the beginning. You was a go-getter. You was dominant. Now you just seem like you're full of estrogen. What happened? Where are you going? Where are you going to see yourself in the next 10 years? Because I don't think I can see myself with you in the next 10 years. Because you're not the same person that I met. You're not even the same person I fell in love with. That's what she's going to say. And guess what she's going to do? She's going to cheat on you with that jock who always at the goddamn gym. That's what she's going to do. That's the new jocks now. Them freaking gym rats. They be in the gym freaking 10 hours a day buffing it out. You be wondering like, damn, what, man, this motherfucker in the gym every goddamn day. What is his goal? His goal is to go ahead and get your woman, hit her with that bop, and go on about his business. Because he knows she got kids and he ain't trying to deal with them. Because you know why? His job, all he doing is pushing paperwork. That's all he doing. All he doing is pushing paperwork all day. You know, he don't push so much paperwork before freaking 6 o'clock a.m. All he doing is sitting back and wait for the money to come through. And you know why? Because you're the one who's helping him get it. So you're the one who's helping him get the money, and he's still banging your wife. Boy, the irony in that, huh? Yeah, I tell you. But you know what? Keep on accepting that low freight. Keep on accepting that low freight. Keep on going ahead and putting yourself up under. And then, you know, you gotta ask, you gotta file for Chapter 13, Chapter 11, some kind of bankruptcy. You know, you gotta liquidate your whole freaking everything you got. Everything that you done thought you own, you gotta liquidate it because you still gotta make payments on it, but you can't make payments because you ain't making enough. So now you're forced to basically just liquidate everything and eventually go ahead and foreclose on your home because you can't afford it no more. You gotta get rid of that boat. You gotta get rid of those side-by-sides you got. You got to get rid of all that good stuff that you got. You just got to get rid of it all. Why you got to get rid of all? Because you're accepting cheap freight. You're accepting cheap freight. You're accepting cheap freight. So out of all the people that's out there with them carriers, you know, from the biggest carrier to the smallest carrier, to the owner-operators, which I'm pretty sure some of them owner-operators is like, shit, man, look, my truck been parked ever since the pandemic, ever since after the pandemic. Ever since after that pandemic, I parked my truck. Why you park your truck? Well, shit, gas prices they kept on rising, they wasn't going down, and them prices on them low boards, it wasn't no motivation. It didn't motivate me enough. It didn't motivate me enough to get up out of bed. So shit, now why should I? You know, I already own my house. You know, I just started a garden. My wife out there helping me. We spending a lot of time together. You know, so why should I? I'm thinking about selling my truck. You want to buy it? You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, people, what I'm getting down to is don't be that person. Don't be that person that accepts cheap freight. Because if you don't accept cheap freight, what you think is going to happen? Honestly, what do you think is going to happen? eventually they're gonna have to boost up on them prices. They have to go up on them prices. They can't let that freight sit for too long. So just let's make them sit on it. Let's make them sit on it. Let's get out here like a big trucker union supposed to be. Drivers taking care of drivers. Companies taking care of other drivers. The carriers taking care of the drivers. And the drivers is out here making sure that they doing what they gotta do to get their load that will pay them good quality money. Make sure that they get that load from point A to point B. That's what we gotta do. That's what it's boiled down to. That's what you should be a part of. I'm Jay Ninsky, man. 361. You know, don't mind the t-shirt because I'm not with those people. You know what I'm saying? I just like the color. Just keep it in mind, man. Just keep it in mind. You know, if they throwing out cheap freight, then that just means that they can't afford it. They can't afford it for it to be sitting there. Think about it. They can't afford it to be sitting there, and they can't afford to really freaking ship it. Think about that. And they trying their best not to go and not to liquidate, but they better try harder because we helping them about their struggle. But who is helping us about our struggle? Huh? Who's helping us? We helping them if we take that cheap freight. We doing them a big favor. We helping them come about their struggle. But guess what? What you think they need to do? The same thing that we need to do. We need to get together and don't accept it. And they need to figure out how can we go ahead and make sure we can get our stuff where it needs to go. Because really, to tell you the truth, they not really struggling once they get that shit on the truck. Once they get that shit on the truck, they finna turn a profit. They finna turn a profit. But yet, they don't want you to profit. You think about that.